municipal lawyer? Yes, because I carry it around. That's right.
I'll get you a new name tag. Slash parliamentary.
That's right. Super. This goes on your dating profile. Yeah. I pulled Roberts out like a gunslinger.
Like all those.
Unabridged. Practically concealed weapon. They're texting. I don't know that physical distance is going to accomplish much.
I wasn't texting him, I was texting her.
Yeah.
I was trying to get her to get Herschel Walker to sit with her for a minute. After the meeting, I thought that'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I've only, well, that one. Haven't seen him.
Is that where she is?
Yeah, that runoff election. Their firm was contracted by the RNC for still any election night litigation issues or something.
Oh, in Georgia?
Recording in progress.
Good to know.
Can't say bad words.
Bad word. Just backing Gabe up here.
I know.
Listen to recording.
Thank God I'm here. I'll fix that. Hey, Kyle. This is live streaming, by the way. Trying a different flavor.
What venue was it like?
YouTube. I'll send you the link.
I had a guy ask me.
Can you email the agenda to Andrew?
Recording stopped.
I cannot.
Now we can talk.
I cannot. Close my email so we don't have to listen to it dinging all night. rise to the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll do a roll call. Alderman Volkart.
Here.
Alderman Bradford. Here. Alderman Bell.
Here.
Alderman Old.
Here.
Alderman Wilson.
Here.
And Alderman Lewis.
Here.
Can I get a motion of approval of November 15th, 2022 meeting minutes, please?
I'll make that motion.
Can we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Special items, none. Appointments to the board, commissions, none. Scheduled public comments, we have none. Just a reminder that if you want to speak publicly, you need to have your information into the city clerk by Wednesday before the meeting date. Public hearing, none. Introductions and first readings. Council Bill number 2022-022, an ordinance extending the corporate limits of the city of Ashland, Missouri by annexing unincorporated area, directed by the city clerk to give notice of annexation, Welch property. This was tabled on 9/6/22. Can we get a staff report, please?
Staff report in your packet. Nothing has really changed since the last time this came before the board. Meets all the necessary requirements for the city to move forward with this annexation. I know the Welch family's here if you would like to hear any additional comments on this, but as it stands, nothing has really changed since the board elected to table it. But here we are.
And it's a legal matter. You're not required to take action. It's appropriate to do so, but you don't have to.
Any comments from the Welch family?
Mr. Mayor and members of the board, my name is Casey Guyman. I'm an attorney at Hayden Colbert in Columbia. I represent Mellon Smart. My address is 827 East Broadway, Columbia. As you know, we've been here several times where, as you know, my client's property borders the Welch property at issue, and there's still an active lawsuit regarding that, regarding the property border. And we've been in front of this board on many occasions, and the last time being was 3 months ago in September, when we had a discussion again, and we tabled it again to this date. It was tabled for the purpose of trying to reach a resolution. 3 weeks ago, on behalf of our clients, my firm sent a settlement proposal, and that has not been, it was not, let me back up. I mean, 3 weeks ago, and then we followed up with them multiple times, and we have not followed up with the Welch attorney and the Welches regarding the settlement agreement. Only 3 hours before this meeting today did we receive our first response with regard to the details of the settlement proposal, and I mean, with that, I mean, my clients have gone above and beyond to try to get this settled. They provided the engineer to make a proposed plat. They provided the attorney to draft the settlement agreement, deeds, easement, et cetera. But with that, I think we have reached a settlement agreement. We just did not get the signatures for that settlement agreement today, and the necessary documents that are associated with that, such as the deed that would transfer the disputed portion, as well as the conservation easement that was a part of it. So with that, we have not come to an official agreement as of today's date, but that's the update as far as we are today. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer that.
So counsel, I'm Todd Smith, I'm the city attorney. So I understand you, the settlement agreement that is tentatively being discussed, does that resolve all issues? Is it in the lawsuit, all disputes, everything settled? Putatively?
If signed, it should settle all claims,
Okay.
but it is not fully executed as of today's date.
Do you have, and I don't wish to pry into, the machinations and negotiations, but is this something where, you anticipate, I mean, we're talking about tomorrow is gonna be good, or do you have a sense of that?
Well, I mean, ideally, it would be done today, but,
Sure.
you know, I think the terms have been reached. It's just a matter of collecting the signatures at this point, from my understanding. So would be ideal that we could get it done that quickly, however,
And then,
Basically.
that's working with Ms. Lewis, I gather, their attorney?
yes.
Okay. Is she here by chance?
No.
Okay. All right. For the sake of the board, the lawsuit that was known as a qualified action, as we discussed, you know, is sort of in neutral, so it's still going, and it's not surprising that it wouldn't be over at this date. But that's interesting news, I didn't know that.
Answer any questions?
Any other questions?
Who is going to end up with the contested property? Is it gonna remain with the Welch family?
No,
Transfer to
that would be a
Smars.
part of the quitclaim over to Smars.
Is part of that, negotiation that would be, brought into the city also? That strip?
I think that would be up for, I think the idea would be we would not contest the annexation, if that's what you're asking, if we get to this agreement. But as of today's date, we haven't reached that agreement fully, if that makes sense.
But that's not part of the negotiation?
As
Is that
far
in-
as resolving
Yes.
the
Is
annexation issue.
is that included in,
That
in
I
your
think,
negotiation?
I think to what we have the ability to do is only to either oppose it or support it, and we would not be opposing it if we reach this agreement.
Counsel, and forgive me if, is it a coincidence that it's not signed this evening, or is that a condition for the collection of the signatures? You see my worry, of course.
No,
I'm concerned that, I mean, I'm delighted to hear that you all have resolved this privately, that's the way I would hope it to go, that's great. You tell me that in theory it's agreed, fabulous. I am, out of abundance of caution, a suspicious person. You tell me on that verge of this board, my client making a difficult decision, the finish line is right here, but has not technically been crossed. I don't think it's crazy to be uncomfortable about that. Can you give me any notion was this a coincidence, or is that I mean, I'm not asking, I know the other side's lawyer's not here, but is that posturing, or truly just a matter of logistics of getting signatures?
I will say that we've reached out to their attorney 4 times since we originally gave the settlement proposal, and today is the first day that we received back. Today we gave a reminder that we're still waiting on it,
I see.
with the idea that tonight was the annexation discussion. We were able to get a lot of things hashed out in the last 3 hours, but the signatures aren't on the page yet, that's all I can say.
I mean, and for the benefit of the board, I mean, this happens all the time in legal practice. The day of trial, you know, the moment of some deadline approaching, lawyers are by nature procrastinators. But I do appreciate that final comment about the forced effort to communicate, I think is indicative.
For some additional clarity on our part, the contested property was cut out of this annexation that is before the board tonight. Does this settlement agreement further shift left or right the west boundary of that contested portion of land?
Donut hole sitting there.
Yep.
Can you repeat what you're
So
looking at?
the property that was contested was carved out by the Welch's surveyor and resubmitted as a new annexation, so that contested property is not included in tonight's annexation.
Right.
Has the size or shape of that contested property as part of the settlement changed?
Not to my knowledge.
So you are still in a position to move forward with this annexation.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, just.
Is there anyone here from the Welches that have anything they'd like to add?
Hi, Michael Welch, representing the Welch family. These negotiations have been ongoing since we were first approached by the SMARS, well, our engineer was first approached by the SMARS, in which he made an offer of a cash payment for the property. Subsequent to that, I called him, he made a cash offer to me for the property. Then, a week after that, we received a notice to appear in court, my mother received a notice to appear in court for an adverse possession claim. Subsequent to that, we had a conversation with the SMARS and their engineer, in which they offered nothing for the property and brought more demands on top of what they'd already said they wanted. So we talked amongst ourselves and started trying to get our arms around that. And we met with their engineer and the SMARS again, and more requirements were added to the demand letter. Now, the last meeting, I wasn't here, I had health issues, I've been ongoing health issues, I'm not even supposed to be here tonight. My doctor recommended that I not be here, he told me to avoid stressful situations because of my heart. So, my brother has COVID, we've been trying to get our arms around this last settlement agreement, and in that settlement agreement was a requirement that we turn 20 feet extra of the land into conservation land, with the caveat that we couldn't do anything with it. We couldn't trench it, we couldn't grade it. Our sewer is planned to be right in, coming in that land, so we opposed that. Right, so that was brought up today. That has been changed. We hashed out some more things, and then at 4:45, we got a requirement that everything had to be signed and notarized by 6:30 tonight in order for that agreement to be valid. So I couldn't get everybody on board by 6:30 and get notarized before this meeting, but I don't want anybody here to think we haven't been trying to negotiate this and settle it. We have gone far beyond where we started and where we wanted to be to try and settle this, and every time it seems the goalpost shift on us, and we have to reevaluate, we have to go back to each other, talk it out, figure out what exactly it means, how we're going to deal with it as a development. And then we have to go to our attorney and try and hash it out with them. So it's been an administrative calamity, to tell you the truth, because the requirements keep changing on us. Now, all that being said, we have agreed tentatively to what we talked about today, but we haven't seen the written portion of that yet. Answer your guys' question, yes, that sliver of land, the disputed land, is required to be annexed in this agreement. The ownership shifts to Melsmar and his family, but it is required to be annexed, so there will be no sliver of land that is not annexed.
Sure. So I have a couple of questions. First, I appreciate the struggle of the dispute. I don't know that the city is going to take a position on that.
I just want to correct the record that we have.
I understand.
It's been said that we have been not wanting to deal with, we have been out,
You don't dispute what the lawyer said. My principal concern is, are you all going to settle this or aren't you?
We agreed to settle it as long as there are no more changes in poison pills in this agreement. But every time I get a new agreement, there's a change or a poison pill, like I've described. So I think we've come to an agreement.
Well, let me put it to you in a legal sense. If the stack of papers were here and a notary was here, would you sign them?
Yes, that's why I have to read them first, and if they reflect what we've agreed to, yes, I would sign them. My mother would sign them and my brother would sign them too.
I don't, you are entitled to be cautious, but allowing that, well, we need to read it and make sure, that condition, I don't think it's unreasonable, don't misunderstand me, I'm not being critical. That makes me unwilling to tell my client, this deal is done. It's not. You very understandably allow yourself to say, wait a minute, page 6, that's not what I wanted.
Right,
And that's a reasonable thing to do. I do want to clarify, though, this, and I don't mean to quibble with you, but if your agreement says that the city must annex it, I'm sure that's not the case. We don't have to annex.
No, it says that the SMARS must annex it, must try to annex it.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming. Sorry for the health concerns. I don't want you to think I'm quibbling with you, but if it ain't signed, it ain't signed. So,
Any questions from Mr. Welch? Thanks, sir. And this is the first reading, correct?
First reading.
Can I get a motion approving, denying, or tabling Council Bill number 2022-022, an ordinance extending the corporate limits of the city of Ashland by annexing unincorporated area?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Call a vote. Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Old.
Aye.
Alderman Bell.
Aye.
Alderman Bradford.
No.
Alderman Volkart.
aye.
All right. Motion carries. Council Bill number 2022-032, an ordinance of the city of Ashland, Missouri, imposing a local sales tax for general revenue purpose at the rate of 3% pursuant to the authority granted by Article 16 of Missouri Constitution, providing for substance of and qualified voters of city approval at its elections to be held on the 4th day of April 2023. Staff report, please.
Sure. This is a standard tax ordinance. Amendment 3 passed, makes recreational marijuana legal. It contemplates that cities can charge an additional 3% sales tax. All of the louder cities are getting the same basic thing. The deadline is the end of January to get it on the ballot. It will appear on the April municipal ballot. I recommend you all pass it. If there's gonna be recreational marijuana sold in Ashland, we should get the benefit of that extra sales tax. To be clear though, what we're approving is getting it on the ballot for the voters. The people of Ashland ultimately will decide whether or not the tax will pass.
Any questions? Council? Can I get a motion to approve, deny, or table Council Bill number 2022, an ordinance of the city of Ashland, Missouri, imposing the local sales tax for general revenue purpose of rate of 3%?
I'll make that motion.
Alderman Wilson and Alderman Bradford. And vote please. Alderman Volkart.
Aye.
Alderman Bradford.
Aye.
Alderman Bell.
Aye.
Alderman Old.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
I would make one more little technical comment. Because this is from the amendment itself, this tax bypasses a lot of hoops. So we wouldn't normally be able to just do a sales tax this readily. But a lot of statutory requirements and red tape are skipped here, so, thanks.
Council Bill number 2022-033, an ordinance imposing a street impact fee on all constructions in the city of Ashland.
So, we had a workshop on this matter last week. The current version in your packet is a red line, and this is my fault. What Kyle has and I have, there's a little bit of a disconnect. There were quite a few changes we talked about. For the sake of the audience here, what this is a fee that attaches to new building construction. It is calculated by the square footage of the construction, and you get, as this current version in the packet, you get $1 per square foot. Those funds are to be used exclusively on street repair. The idea is if you build a subdivision and you have a bunch of houses, you'll have heavy construction, vehicle traffic, bulldozers, dump trucks, which are particularly hard on roads. And so you have this little fee. It's not a tax, it's actually just a fee. It gets tacked onto your permit when you decide you want to build something. You have this extra money, it goes into a street fund only to be used for that purpose. It allows us to keep our streets up and address the impact of increased heavy vehicle traffic, the construction equipment that's coming in. This is very popularly used. And I won't belabor the point, we've talked about it now at 2 different workshops. The last time, we made a lot of changes to it. We still have some things I'd like to fiddle with, but that's what we're looking at. It's $1 per square foot on all construction, commercial and residential. And so if you want to build something in Ashland, and it's 1,000 square feet, you're looking at a $1,000 additional charge to build. And That money goes to help keep the streets in good shape. I think that we have, like I said, a red line version. I think you could go ahead and pass the first reading tonight if you wanted to. I'm happy to discuss it further. I know that there was general agreement that this was a good place to spend the money on streets, and there are little details you can fiddle with. The big change, I think, from the original draft was to include all construction, not simply residential. As a consequence, you will get more money and have more money, again, for street repair. You can't turn around and use it on parks. You can't turn around and use it on salaries. This money is strictly to offset the impact of increased vehicle traffic. So, that's where we're at. I apologize I don't have a more finalized version for you, but if you want to pass for a first reading, we can get it formalized. If you'd like to table it, that's fine. There's not a deadline for these sorts of things, but my legal opinion is that this is a valid use, this is a popular use. I leave to your judgment the political decision whether or not to pass it.
My concern is that we have it in here as at $1 per square foot, and we had a lengthy discussion during the work session, and that, while we didn't land on a particular dollar amount or fee, many of us were not in favor of going the full dollar, and
So
here
that's
it
part
shows
of the
up as
discussion
$1,
tonight, since
so.
we had two people gone, was to have some further discussion on what
Okay.
the final rate needed to be. And I know I sent out some supplemental documentation kind of showing what that would look like, starting at 25 cents per square foot. So that's what we really need some staff direction on tonight, is even if you guys want to table it, at least have some discussion so we can further flesh out this ordinance for you.
And from a legal perspective, the only thing you can't do is set it ridiculously high. You can't make it $10 a square foot. One of the ways that these impact fees can be challenged if it's proven to be profitable. But what you typically see is $1, $2, 75 cents. That is the generic neighborhood. It's not statutorily defined, but that would be the neighborhood we'd be looking at for our ordinance. There are lots of cities with $1, 25 cent, $2, that sort of stuff. So we're in good shape. We won't have a worry there. I don't think anyone was suggesting to Alderman Hull's position, anything, if anything, perhaps less. So that's perfectly fine, easy to adjust.
Okay, you two were absent the day that we did this discussion, so you have the first workshop. Yeah, the second, you have the first round, ask questions, comments and stuff like that.
What is our fee right now?
Oh, we don't have a street impact fee.
You don't have, yeah.
Right.
I mean, the 30-second answer is our street department would tell us we're not generating enough funds to keep our streets where they need to be. We need more money to keep the streets up. You can pass a tax, you can have an impact fee. Those are basically the choices. Yeah, impact is easier to pass. Impact is easier to change. And there is an argument that it is somewhat fair. In other words, the dump trucks driving through town to build that subdivision, I already live in Ashland. If I have a tax, the argument becomes, I'm paying for dump trucks that are not my fault. The subdivision with the new 100 houses that caused the dump trucks to come down Main Street, they're the ones causing the increased wear and tear. They should pay the penalty, so to speak. The contrary argument is you make it more expensive to have development. A reasonable person might say this might discourage development. People will elect to build elsewhere because it will be. This is real money. It's not grievously expensive. The cocktail napkin conversation we used in the workshop was, $125,000 might be generated, right? So this is real money. You don't build a bridge with that kind of money, but it certainly makes James's life a little easier, helps us keep up with the wear and tear and maintenance of our streets.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that after seeing the breakdown of what the actual real cost of this is, I know that, discussing 75 cents or $1, those kind of things were up for debate, but, I mean, at the end of the day, $1 per, however you wanna break it down, per lot transaction or per home loan for, the end buyer of the property is almost nothing. I mean, we saw it's like $6 a month or something, $3 a month, maybe $1,000 over the 30-year life think that's, I mean, I think $1 is completely reasonable when you break it down in that kind of terms. I think this is a great idea. I think whoever brought this up initially 2.5 years ago was way ahead of the time. And I wish that person would have been on the Board of Aldermen 25 years ago, because the streets would probably be in a lot better shape. And the whole town would have been, already reaping the benefits of this. But I think that, going forward, the future of Ashland will probably look back on this and be, I think it would be a benefit.
I ended my workshop with a brief comment, and I mean this sincerely. Your community is vibrant, it is growing, it is economically strong. You're in a position to do this without a problem. Homes are $350,000 here, new construction. If it costs $352,000, it's negligible cost, particularly over a long period of time. Many towns are not in such a position. So you all are doing the responsible thing. We're gonna have this very small fee that most people can afford. It'll help our streets. This is a good idea.
Any other questions? Alderman, you have questions, any comments?
I made my comments.
I suppose the direction that would be most useful, and there's some grammatical things I need to clean up. I think, like I said, I have 2 versions of this, but the dollar amount is really sort of the stickler. And I would remind you all, this is just an ordinance. It could be $1 this year, and you might change it next. You can certainly do that. I bear no actuarial wisdom into telling you, well, I know for a fact you all need $87,000, and the 72-cent per square foot tax will get it done. I mean, that's what you'd ideally like to know. But my crystal ball doesn't work better than anybody else's, so.
I'll throw my 2 cents out for probably a little bit more than that. As a person that just recently had to pay for a building permit, at $1, it would have more than doubled what I had to pay. And I already had to pay a lot, when you're already talking, $3,500 with all the fees combined, jumping that to $7,000, it's gonna hit hard. And, that's why I had suggested the 50. I'd be more inclined tonight to go down to 25. If that's even the way to go. I've had a lot of,
That can't be right.
It is. It would more than double. It would more than double what my fees were.
Well, if it's $1 a square foot, where you're building a 3,500 square foot house, it wouldn't double.
It did.
Okay.
It did. Yep. One thing we need to think about is, yes, we do have dump trucks, that type of thing. We've got a lot of other vehicles going through the city that also cause wear and tear. We've got the semis that are delivering, we've got school buses, we've got fire trucks, we've got lots of different things. I've had some communications from other builders too. The person that's gonna hurt is the home buyer. When we first started talking about impact fees, I seem to remember we were looking at more the bigger developer, hitting it on that initial commercial side, what we're looking at now is not so much making money on that larger developer, the Amazon and that type of thing, as it is going down. Our homes are already high priced, adding probably close to $5,000 onto that, if it's a larger home, it's gonna hurt our market a bit.
Well, maybe instead of an impact fee, we should turn all the roads into toll roads and charge everybody a nickel every time they drive down them.
I mean, I think with all due respect, I am trying to, but the problem, I mean, that's the deal, right, is that the reason people get these bad feelings about these things, the reason people vote down the Amazon use tax and stuff like that, is that they don't quite understand them. And then the examples are something crazy and drastic that gets everybody scared. And I mean, we've seen the numbers on a 30-year home loan. This doesn't hurt anybody. I mean, the majority, and when I say the majority, I'm saying like 99% of the citizens of Ashland, when buying a house, would probably not even notice. And that's what I just want to make sure. I mean, again, your specific situation is your specific situation. Just what we know about the math is that I don't know that that is accurate. So if it adds $5,000 to a home purchase, it would have to be a 5,000 square foot house, which is already $750, $850, you know, in this area. Heck, maybe more than that. I mean, I don't even know if there's that many 5,000 square foot houses in the city of that, so maybe 2 or 3. But so I think it's important to hit on the fact that, you know, in practice, this doesn't hurt anybody.
And one of the reasons why we spent so much time talking about this is a very popular option. Lots of cities do this. And it's generally perceived, although I suppose if I was a developer, I might have a different opinion, but it's generally thought to be an acceptable increase. Again, particularly for an affluent community. You know, in the world of such things, you all are building houses with average values that are very high at a pretty good clip. This is a good problem to have for a city, you know, so.
Alderman Bradford, what would you think your percent would be, your dollar amount? 25, 50, 75?
I mean, dollar don't sound bad, but I'd go down as far as 75.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No, I mean, I'll stick with my same, 50 cents in the, I think that's fair. And I know there will be some concerns about, construction, slowing down and stuff like that. There's other cities just to the north, it hasn't slowed them down at all, so.
I'll open up to public real quick. Any comments or questions, or any comments from the public? Please present your name and address.
I'm not fighting over it.
Sure.
Not fighting over it?
All one happy family, darn it. Folks, my name is Christopher Felmley. I'm a retired superintendent with the community. Love the community. Ashland is a huge part of my heart. I'm here to support the community. However, I'm very concerned about this. As a taxpayer, especially with our school district, as a personal taxpayer, this, unless you're going to exclude the school district from this proposed increased fee, it will affect everyone, sir. It most definitely will affect every citizen. For the next 10 years, we'll more than likely see every 2 years the school district having anywhere from $5 million to potentially $20 million construction project just because of the growth in our community, as was said. And so that extra dollar or whatever that fee is will be attributed to the construction that's necessary for the school. Now, the school gets those funding from taxpayers, and so you as an institution that also is publicly funded, the district is having to turn over a larger percentage of its construction costs to the city for this fee. But then here too, if you look back a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, the Board of Aldermen approved the development of inspection and property inspection and the approval process for construction in the city of Ashland. prices, that was originally, something that the county did. But when Ashland decided to take this on themselves, the fee went from, around $11,000 to $15,000 for the school district, and went to $55,000. That's a 5-time increase, and at least 5 times an increase, which only took money away from the district's ability to provide services for its students. And so, you know, I'm just really concerned that these costs tonight may sound little, but I think they will play a larger impact in our community and the growth of our community. Commercial development is gonna happen, folks. It's not if, it's when. The quicker we can get more commercial development in the city of Ashland and southern Boone, that's gonna draw, property tax down on residential and agricultural property. And so, you know, the more commercial we can, foster in our community, in our southern county, the better for our taxpayers, because we'll see that they're not having the burden on them as significantly as they do currently. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I would ask that you consider that, as you make these decisions. And please, I think you should have public comment. I think there should be some input, especially with the school district, because we can guarantee you, consistent major construction projects, whether it's a $5 million project or a $20 million project, and that's huge for our community. Any questions from me?
I don't really have any questions, but I'm glad you brought up the school district, because luckily for me, I have my handy dandy 2022 now property tax receipt. This is just for my house of 2,800 square feet. My taxes went up $300 for the year. I now pay $3,607 a year for my 2,800 square feet. Out of my $3,607.18 taxes, exactly $121.50 goes to the city of Ashland. You know how much goes to the school district? $2,926.31, which is an increase of actually $1,000 over last year. And yet the school district doesn't have the money, right? The city has all the money, and we should spend it better. We should not consider impact fees because we're just rolling it.
I didn't.
And if,
that is not my opinion.
I didn't ask you a question, I'm sorry. And so if this commercial development that comes, that lowers our taxes, is gonna lower that $121.50, I mean, that's nothing, and that's the problem, and I don't mean anything against you, but the problem is this perception that's not reality, right? The school district, I love the school district, and when I'm not wearing my City of Ashland hat, I'll support the school district, I vote for the bond issues and all those things, but the city has let the school district get by with lower fees and all of these things.
How so?
I mean, just ask. I mean,
I'm asking.
well, again, it's not question and answer session for you, but I mean, he's more than happy to talk about that. I haven't been on the board of aldermen as long as I've lived in this town, but we know exactly what probably should have been charged to the school for certain building projects and what actually gets charged to the school for building projects. We know of certain areas of sidewalks that probably would have been required for any commercial development, any house, any residential development in this town that's not required of the school district. And we could go on and on and on, but that's not what it's about. But the thing is, this perception, right, is not the reality, okay? That's all I have to say about that.
I would humbly disagree.
Sir, appreciate your comments.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
I appreciate all that you do. Thank you for your service.
Any other comments?
My name is Carl Freiling, I live at 17300 South Burnett School Road, and I have a question. The state, with the lottery, attributed the funds to education. State legislature, once those funds came in, cut funding for education. Same thing happened with soils and conservation tax with DNR. So the new funds came in and were used as designated. Is there anything in this legislation that says if we generate $125,000 for streets out of this, that $25,000 out of the current budget for streets is not gonna go to something else? Is this question, am I making myself clear here? We designate a tax for sound reasons, but then because the budget is still tight, and I utterly appreciate how tight the city's budget is, those funds do get used for streets, but funds that would have been allocated to streets are no longer.
I understand your question, and I wanna be clear, I'm gonna answer your question in a general way. I don't wanna bind the city, in fact, I legally can't, okay? I would submit that our ordinance says the money collected for special impact fees goes to a street fund. The money in the street fund can only be used for maintenance, repair, and construction of streets. The offsetting budgetary thing you were describing is not addressed in the ordinance. Doesn't mean that we would do that or wouldn't do that, but there is no prohibition, for instance, that says last year's allocation out of general funds must remain the same. It does more precisely, though, address the funds that we're talking about on top of your building permit. Does that answer the question?
That does.
Yes, sir.
If I could, I would point out that the majority of the street funding right now is collected through transportation tax, road use tax, and vehicle titling fees through the state. So those taxes are specifically earmarked for streets and can't be used for other projects, so that would help alleviate some of those concerns.
And then I just had a general comment.
Sure.
First of all, you have my sympathy. I sat on county planning and zoning for 25 years, and your willingness to serve is a personal sacrifice. I know this. In Ashland, and I've been here nearly half a century, not in real estate, all but 2 years of that. What I have seen in this community that has made it so nice has been the cooperation within the community. Every project I have seen that has been very successful in the city has come about because some board like this made extraordinary effort to find the best solution to existing issues. Whether it was starting with the pool, or the Optimist, or the Y, or the schools, all of those, the individual churches, the other service organizations, the senior center, all of those efforts had groundwork laid, discussion made, an agreement made about the best path forward. I understand that an impact fee is very expedient. It's very easy to tax people who aren't here yet. That's easy. But I'm not sure I'm not sure that you're not sacrificing one of your best arguments for an overall view of the city's revenue sources by taking road maintenance off the table in any future discussion of needs for revenue. I personally think the city needs a broad-based increase in revenue. And I think that this community, if that argument is presented well, and with a community discussion about it, I think it might be possible to come to a much more effective, long-lasting resolution of underfunding for the city administration. Ashland has struggled the entire time I have been here with funding. And I don't mean you need to be rolling in cash, but it's always been a struggle. And in the time I have been here, we have not had a single discussion here's what our community is, here's where we were headed, and we can see that now. Ashland's gonna continue to grow, and there are other needs besides streets. And I think myself that a combined presentation that includes street maintenance, which is obviously, everybody rides them every day, you can see it. I think that's one of your big levers. And I just think that the community needs to have a really broad-based discussion about funding that lets the city continue to grow without struggling to maintain basic services.
Sir, thank you for the comment.
I'll throw my 2 cents in this. Derek Schooler, owns Schooler's Construction, built here in town. Enjoy being here in town. Enjoy our town. And I feel like, as far as maintenance, street maintenance, all that, we need to have a lot more of it. I mean, you drive around, it's kind of piss poor in places, and we know that. That's why I'm guessing, looking for ways to come up with money to help your side of things and improve things. Just anytime anybody, just in the last year, let's just say, every 2 to 3 months, I get a stack of envelopes of all the price increases that we're getting. This is just another one. No, $2,000 doesn't make a big difference, but it just keeps stacking up. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do something, but I don't know this. Let's say we pass this, we get this going at $1 a square foot. Does this solve our problems? Does it get us where we need to be, or is it just kind of starting to hit at it?
So, as I said, we don't have a crystal ball.
Right. But you know how many building permits were taken out last year?
I do.
At $1 a square foot, relatively where we're gonna be at, say, next year, if we start adding this. And with that budget, does that take care of us?
Here's the problem, and from being around here, I mean,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
what, in your 30s?
Yep.
Okay, so you've been around here for a while. So, like I mentioned before, if the city council had this type of foresight 20, 30, 40 years ago, one, we obviously wouldn't be having this discussion, right? They would've had that a while back, and they would've got through their, discussions. But they couldn't really, I'm guessing when I was in kindergarten, they didn't really see the town tripling in, 20 years, or whatever. But as that has gone on, the problem has gotten worse, right? We just, right now, happen to be the first ones trying to get in front of it.
Yep.
But, to answer your question fair, does it get us to where we wanna go? No. With Bill Martin's new neighborhood there, the Liberty North, is gonna cost the city a roundabout at Henry Clay and Liberty.
I believe that.
And that's gonna be $1 million something. And the only reason, 3 million, do I hear 6?
Karen's into a bidding war.
So it's gonna cost the city $3 to $5 million. And to be fair, all the city did was be friendly to development,
Yep.
right? And so, that's the problem that we have, right? Like, you're not gonna make everybody happy. But everybody drives these streets. People that don't go to school here, people that don't buy new houses, people that build houses. It's all in the community. But the city is unfortunately the one that has to take it. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're, and I'm not saying the city doesn't need to generate more money. I'm just curious, if you guys do this, is it solving problems, or are we just kind of putting a Band-Aid on a problem that we're trying to take care of? Like, is there plans to do more than just this impact fee here in the next year to help increase this revenue on this side of things?
So I can kind of speak to that. The projected revenues of this, if it was $1 per square foot, would be what, about $130,000 a year?
125, 130.
Okay.
That's based on 80 permits last year.
Yep.
On your typical annual street department, repair and maintenance schedule,
we would spend about $200,000, $150,000 to $200,000, to do overlays. And that might get us, depending on the length and width of the roads, it might get us, 4 streets if they're long ones, it might get us a half dozen. One of the biggest issues with this town are our major thoroughfares. South Henry Clay Boulevard, South Main Street, Liberty Lane's in great shape, but I can't for the life of me figure out how. The dump truck traffic on Liberty Lane is just boggling.
You are right, it does.
And in Peterson Lane, although that's purely a residential area, it is a thoroughfare by connecting South Henry Clay to 63. Long term, what's gonna wind up happening, those streets, and we already see it with South Main Street and South Henry Clay especially, they're not just an overlay to get you up to snuff. They're big projects. South Henry Clay Boulevard, to do right, that's a $5 million project itself, because there's stormwater repair, or infrastructure needs to be installed, there's right-of-way acquisition, curb and gutter, sidewalks, if we're gonna make it where it needs to be, to reflect the values of
Not
Ashland.
putting Band-Aids on things, doing it right and making it last.
Exactly.
Do something where it's gonna last. But, so I guess to answer my question is, this doesn't even touch where you need to be.
It's just a step in the right direction.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
It helps us long-term, when we can get a lot of these, subdivision streets caught up, where we see the 10 to 15 year lifespan on our concrete, so we can come back and we can do our overlays. Once we get on our overlays, we want to eventually have the point where we have a pavement preservation plan in place, much like Boone County does.
Yep.
They do an overlay, 2 years later, it's chip sealed.
Yep.
We need to be looking to get to that level.
Maintenance is a big thing. You're
But
right.
we'll never get there. We're still trying to play catch up before we can ever start thinking about long-term preservation, 2-year life cycle. So it's a step in the right direction. To answer your question, will it fund the big projects? Not particularly, but it helps us start to catch up.
And I'm sorry, I'm taking you guys' time, but where do we go to get things, I mean, $125,000 isn't, it's not gonna get anybody very far. And that's why I'm not coming up here to dispute what you guys pass on this. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, we just got $15 per yard increase at the first of the year for concrete. So it's just, I mean, someone asked me how much a house costs, I said, I don't know, and I build them every day, so I don't know what to tell you. I live here, I've grown up here, my kids are gonna go here. I have businesses here that I'm proud to be here. But I would like to pull into the town, and it looked like something. And I know, like I said, this isn't really the discussion for if I oppose or whatever on this, because like I said, I'm looking ahead, just like you guys are saying, and I'm just seeing what your guys' thoughts are as far as what we're gonna do to have that, because like you said, our streets were put in, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done to get things looking good, and I think we all want that. I know sidewalks are a big thing. I see kids walking, say from West Oaks. How long have kids been walking from West Oaks to school? And, now we put in, like you said, you were talking about the Liberty Landing subdivision. We put in 2 subdivisions down there, and there's not a single sidewalk from either one of those subdivisions that leads you to an elementary, primary school. To me, I can't ever grasp my head around that, of all the things we think about, but the safety of getting our kids to school isn't on that list. And I'm not someone I'd rather spend a little extra money, have it nicer, but I want our town to.
And there will be, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like you said, sorry, but, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's like this doesn't get us there.
Yep.
But this, plus the grant funding that we're in, the partnership with the YMCA and the school to get the sidewalks going, and the hopeful, I mean, we've been talking about, commercial development since, since
Nothing, I mean, it's like COVID hit, and it just.
Yeah, and there's places for it, and things are working, and we're a hell of a lot farther down the line today than we were 30 years ago, but that's the thing, is I personally feel like I would be doing this city a disservice if I sat here and said, well, hopefully, hopefully Sonic comes in tomorrow.
Well, I don't think one business is gonna solve our problems, just like this isn't gonna solve our problems, but I'm just looking at the bigger picture. I love living here, I love, building here and running a business here, but I'm just asking questions, so.
Thank you. To somewhat answer your question, so the board has had 2 workshops on this, and the first workshop focused on whether or not to look at impact fees or whether or not to look at sales tax. we ultimately felt that an impact fee would be more agreeable. But just for your reference, if the sales tax were to be pursued, a half-cent sales tax would generate $200,000 a year,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And like Nate's saying, $120 towards the city of Ashland, I mean, what can you do with I mean, I know there's several residents, but I get it.
I can almost buy a yard of concrete.
Almost. Not for very long, get it going.
Yeah, I got the same letter.
Any more comments, sir?
Any more comments from public?
Oh, I said I wasn't gonna come up here, but, just kinda watching this, guys. Donnie Sanford, 810 West Glen Court. I also own the Car Quest here in town. I'm looking at building a development, or a building. So that's a 10,000 square foot building, that's $10,000. So with 7% interest amortized over 20 years, that's not gonna be a $3 to $4 fee. I mean, it's gonna hit pretty good. Also, I just wanted to voice, a lot of it is with the construction and the things like that, which, caveat, guys, I've sat on a city council before, 2 years as an alderman, 4 years as a mayor. I understand what you're going through, and sometimes you're not gonna make everybody happy and those things there. But one thing I wanted to voice was, I was listening to a lot of the stuff, watching it, 'cause I watch these meetings a little bit, and, you know, the construction companies aren't just tearing up the roads and building these things. I mean, their guys are coming into town, they're stopping at Casey's, they're buying gas, they're coming to my store. You know, I write a pretty good check for sales tax every month. I mean, this right here is gonna punish on the commercial, and also I don't think you're giving credit in those things. I think this, which like I said, I'm kinda piggybacking off what Derek said. I don't wanna say like, hey, like, this ain't the thing, 'cause I do think there is to be something. Our streets are awful, we need to fix them. But I think that the answer is revenue, your sales tax revenue. Like, that is where you need to focus, and getting businesses in here that generate that for us. But doing stuff like this, I don't know, I put a hard thought, and the citizens don't have a voice in this, right? But we can't say like, hey, I wanna vote this is a way to not, you're putting a tax on us without letting us vote on it. I just really think about that. Like I said, $10,000 to one of my competitors, like O'Reilly's or AutoZone, they probably wouldn't even, it's a drop in the bucket. For me, that might hold my construction for a little bit right now, you know? I'm just a smaller guy, but I think that doing things, there's a lot of things that could be done that could raise the same amount without doing something like this. We're not doing it at a level of $1 a square foot. But, on the other hand, like I said, just wanted to voice that, because I heard people saying, well, it's only gonna be $3 or $4. Yeah, that's for somebody buying a $200,000 to $300,000 home. But what about that business that's gonna build here? What about somebody who's gonna do something? You're talking $10,000 amortized at 7% compounding interest. That's quite a bit. Just wanted to voice that. And I also wanted to say that, you know, these guys, yeah, the construction guys are beating up the roads, but their guys are stopping at Casey's, they're buying gas. That money is coming back to us. We all benefit by them building. And just wanted to voice that. And also, like I said, I've been where you guys are at, and these things are tough. Thanks for hearing me.
Thank you.
So,
Yes, sir.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You said that you think that there are other things that we could do to raise money, and Mr. Freiling said, you know, similar things, you know, we need to look at something big picture. So, can you give me an example of what you think we could do? I mean, how can we, if we're missing the boat, what can we do to raise
Well,
money?
there's sales tax, there's other fees. I'm not saying you couldn't do something like this, but maybe think, I don't know, I'd have to look at it. I mean, you tell me what in this city is not raising, and I'd have to look at it. I'd have to look at the finances of where the city's at, and I see that there's how many gas stations, how many things that are collecting revenue. I guess I would wanna look at, what department is struggling the most, I guess, would be streets, correct?
Yeah.
Because that's what we're here on this?
Well,
So in every other town.
One of the departments
That's
is
correct.
struggling.
The town that I was mayor of had a little less than 1,500 people, I think they're below 9, and they had double the size of people that James has right now. And I've said that from day one, I can't believe he's doing what he's doing with what he has. So I guess I'd ask, like, and you know what, we had a Casey's and a grocery store that closed down, and one semi-filling station, Hardee's or Barry's, that really wasn't run, and we had $1 million budget a year. So I guess, I mean, I would look at first, where is our money going before I come up with something like that? And then there is a lot of things you could do. There's a lot of things you could do by imposing something like this, but having economic breaks or doing things like that, I'd have to put a lot of thought into that. I can do that for
No,
you.
I thought you had
I don't.
ready answer, right? You know, the way you
This is
presented
a
it.
public comment, I was
Yeah.
just making a comment that, I just didn't feel I heard anybody say that, hey, these people do, it's not like these people come in here and just tearing the roads up. I mean, we spend money, or everybody spends money and does, and I think, honestly, the answer is you need more revenue. Revenue is created from sales tax. I think you need to do things that are a little more pro-business to drive more business to be here. Once you do that, that's gonna fix your problems.
I don't disagree, except the problem that everybody seems to be missing is that we've been trying to be pro-business for 20 years, right? And how long do you just sit and wait and hope? You know what I mean? Like you bring up good points, and I don't necessarily disagree, but yes, all those construction workers, they go to Casey's, they go to the gas station, they go to whatever. How many new subdivisions have been built in the last year? And how bad are the streets?
Subdivision's different from.
Well, no, but what I'm saying
That's
is,
not a
that
business.
building has been going on while break time and fast lane and break time part 2 and, Casey's and all these things are here, but it's not getting better.
Well, let me ask you this. This town has tripled in size, and you guys are having, you know what, believe it or not, you're having growing pains, which is an amazing problem to have, because the problem I had was my town was dying. And what we were trying to do was keep people. These are good problems to have, believe it or not. But here's the thing, why aren't businesses opening? Because the people are here. Let me ask that, why aren't they opening? If it's pro-business, I'll tell you, I opened a business here, cashed in every 401k I have, put everything I have in my life to open a business here. And I'll tell you what, it was rough. And I know I really didn't want to come up here and address this, because as a business owner in this town, and I owned a business in the last one, and I don't want to get into it where everybody thinks I'm not dropping bombs on you guys. I just felt like I heard those things, and I'm emotionally and personally invested in this. And the reason I opened my business here is because I like this community. And you know what? I said, hey man, this place needs a parts store. Why don't we have a parts store? So I did the research and opened one. And I'll tell you, it was rough getting open.
And for the record, sir, who was it that invited you to come move to Ashland over Old Summit? I don't remember. Who was that? Creel? All right. Carl, make sure it's in there.
Right, yeah. And like I said, I'm not attacking. Just want to state my opinion. And, I'd be glad if someone wanted to pick my brain, not that I feel that it's worth it, but I just wanted to say that, many things we could do.
Thank you for the comments, sir.
Thank you.
Landon Smith, I live 210 Hickam Alley. I agree with you guys, the streets are pretty bad, and I admit I tear it up. I'm a builder here too. Most of the time, we fix it, most of the time, but we do have residual effects, is what this is for, right? So, I feel like what happens next year when building slows down? Do you get 80 grand, 70 grand? So it just does less. So what if we did something that was more consistent, like the sales tax that they were talking about? Something that gives you guys cash every year, that gives you the 200,000 that you're talking about. Because if our people are here and people are still living here and businesses are open here, you can have that consistent amount. If you guys do this, it's fine. It's not that big of a hit, honestly. It's just another budget item. We don't do something that's fancy in our houses. It's not that huge of a hit, but it's not a consistent funnel of money for you guys. And that's kind of what my only concern is how do you guys get ahead of the problem instead of like a little Band-Aid that's here and then it's not there next year and then the next year you might get it. That's my only comment. Is how do you make this more streamlined? This seems like a quick fix.
Well, part of it is, again, that it's not, I guess it's the perception of it, right? But this isn't necessarily a revenue generator. This is an offset of expenses. So like if you're, in your example, if we have less building, well then there's less impact and we're cool with that because we're even, all right? I mean, that's what the goal, that's why this isn't a tax, right? Like this is.
What if you combine it? Do a sales tax and a 50-cent permit?
And we can absolutely, I mean, you heard it here, there's 10 people in this room that are for sales tax, right? But, I mean, all joking aside, how many sales taxes have been shot down in this town?
I'm not against
Yeah.
the dollar per square foot. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I live with that.
But, yeah, so,
But
yeah.
it's not something that he can get ahead and do something
Yeah,
with.
but that's what I was just to answer your question, is that like generally it is designed to offset, right? So without impact fee, you tear up the road, you didn't fix it, the city's coming in and fixing it and going negative,
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
example. So in this, if you build one house, tear up the road, city comes in and fixes it, then your one house makes it even, right? We're still behind, but we're closer to even than we were without it.
Yeah, I'm
So-
not against it, just get something additional that's more streamlined with the growth of the community. Cause
Sure.
this, we could slow down too.
I do appreciate your candor. I would make one little tiny comment of the record. Impact fees cannot generate revenue. One of the ways that you get in trouble is if they do start to generate revenue. It is absolutely the offset that he's describing.
Yeah.
Your comment is well taken. Thank you for making it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, in light of all of this, I have another comment.
Sure.
No. I'm not opposed to the impact fees, like we've all talked about, we need to do something, we need to try to get a handle on this, and this is a first step. But after hearing these comments, I think we need to do some more work on the fees. I think we need to have a separate fee schedule for residential versus commercial, because there's a different impact that each have. And like they said, we don't wanna slow down commercial business, so I think we need to make this more reasonable. And I think for a commercial development at $1 a square foot, I think maybe we are going to hurt that. I think maybe we need to talk about that some more.
So for the benefit of the other two aldermen, the original draft proposal, which was just for direct discussion, the original one was only for residential construction. Of course, you add commercial, you get more money, more better stuff. It's no problem to generate. We have examples in other cities with breakouts. And one of the work groups we talked about, the sewer stuff, that's real easy to do. A house has 2 toilets, a car wash generates a lot more water in the sewer. So we can certainly do that, but it will be another matter of setting that dollar amount. So it'll slow us down just a bit, but that's no problem at all. Would you be interested?
Melissa, did you make a motion?
No, that was just a general comment.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to table this to allow us additional time, and I would like, as part of that motion, to direct the city staff to set up another work session approximately a month from now. I would like to do additional research as well.
Can do.
I'll second that motion.
Alderman Volkart,
No.
Alderman Bradford,
Aye.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Alderman Bell,
Aye.
Alderman O,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson. Aye. And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Motion carries, it will be tabled for 1 month.
Can I say one more thing, and this is on the sales tax too?
Keep it
Tim,
brief, buddy.
I'm just sitting here, what's that?
Keep it brief, let's hear
Yep.
it.
Why don't we come up with a big picture of what we're after, and when we go after a sales tax? Because I feel like just, hey, we want more of your money, doesn't get you as far. But you show something that you can get out of this, say, show the street, sidewalks on both sides, and some landscaping and stuff like that, something that's easily maintained, and I think we might have different results. And that's just my opinion, but I'm all for it. I'm just,
Yeah, what you're talking about is the capital improvement plan, but, you know, we're happy to include renderings, but those cost money.
Yep.
You know,
But if it gets you where you wanna go.
I agree with you, I understand.
Homeowners like.
You know, we were able to do renderings for the Veterans Memorial, and that sold it, and it funded itself, and it worked out really, really well.
Yep.
But,
Gavel James down.
And vote tax on Facebook.
Mr. Mayor, let's move it along.
You're done, sir. Moving on to old business. Ordinance number 1419, an ordinance extending the corporate limits of the city of Ashland, Missouri by annexing unincorporated districts, directing the city's clerk to give notice of the annexation. Staff report, please.
Second reading from our last meeting for IFS, the rezoning hearing will go before P and Z at their next meeting, and then it'll come up to the board for approval. Nothing's really changed with this. We were just struggling to get them to sign off on the rezone petition. Ownership is out of St. Louis, so we just had some timing hurdles to get them here to sign off on that. So everything is progressing forward as originally presented.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Call a vote. Alderman Vocart.
Aye.
Alderman Bradford.
Have a motion
Aye.
and a
Oh,
second.
sorry, motion, I'm sorry. I need a motion. Try to speed it up.
I'll make a motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Alderman Vocart.
Aye.
Alderman Bradford.
Aye.
Alderman Bell.
Aye.
Alderman Old.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
New business, a resolution authorizing the donation of surplus property.
So Mr. Mayor, this is just regarding the, two existing sets of wood and metal bleachers that are currently at the ball field, part of the LWCF grant project. We explained it was our intention to donate those to the Hartford Lions Club. We're ready to do that.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for staff? Need a motion approving the resolution authorizing donation of surplus.
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Call vote. Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Old.
Aye.
Alderman Bell.
Aye.
Alderman Bradford.
Aye.
Alderman Vocart.
Aye.
Moving on to reports. The mayor report.
Nope,
Oop,
nope,
oop, we got,
one more
sorry, you don't
resolution.
have the updated resolution or the updated agenda in your packet.
Just to the station.
Oh, Darla had an emergency edition yesterday afternoon.
Jane had one.
I was told to.
I get a motion to, a resolution authorizing the repair of Justin Lane lift station. Can the staff report, please?
Mr. Mayor, this is regarding the, need to repair or replace a faulty pump at that lift station. We recently discovered on Friday that, this pump was, we received the quote Friday, for repairing a pump that had failed. It's a 25-year-old pump. The manufacturer's rep, Band of Honor Engineering, has provided a quote for, just under $5,700 to repair the pump, which will have a 1-year warranty. The other option would be, just under $11,500 to replace the pump, which would have a 5-year prorated warranty. Staff recommendation to, move to repair the pump at this time for $56.49 and 6 cents.
This is over a spending limit and it's kind of an emergency repair situation, which is why it was added prior to that 24-hour deadline on the agenda.
Can I get a motion approving resolution authorizing the repair of Justin Lane lift station?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Aye.
Alderman Vocart.
Aye.
Alderman Bradford.
Aye.
Alderman Bell.
Aye.
Alderman Old.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Sorry about that. Moving on to reports. Quick report, I know we're behind time. Parade went well. Don't forget about the, Christmas luncheon, it's December 16th. If you can attend, we appreciate it. I did notice the service call report that was posted on Facebook and all that. Very good, I like it. Shows where everybody's going. So, good idea. And then also, back to the impact fees, I've had, in the last 48 hours, 3 different developers call me. And I explained to them that it was not on the developer, it's on the person who's buying the building permit, okay? And one of the 3 has asked if we could do a round table with the builders. And I agree to that. I really do. I think we need to get their impact or their information from them, see what they think about it, and I would like to get that set up. So, that's my report. City Administrator report.
I have nothing to report this time.
City Attorney's report.
Today is the first day of filing for the April 2023 municipal election. Those of you who would like to run again have until December 27th to do the paperwork. That's it.
Just thinking.
We just bought another term.
Yep, you did.
Let's get through now.
Police and support.
Mine's, fairly brief, more about ask them if you got questions. Still one position vacant. We haven't really done a whole lot in terms of recruiting. There's actually some internal stuff in terms of like the background process that we're trying to clean up a little bit before we hit that really hard. And then our one officer that's been on light duty for a while is still on light duty and will be for a while. And then we've had another officer that's been out, for the past several weeks due to a medical issue, and, the resulting effect of his absence and the others has created a fairly significant amount of overtime, especially during the holiday period, so just something to kind of keep in the back of your brains whenever we start talking police budget here in a couple months. So, other than that, you may have noticed in your report that the Liberty Lane traffic study, has been completed, and there's a lot of cars that go in and out of Liberty Lane South.
19,000.
Huh?
19,000?
There's a difference of about 10,000 between the two locations.
Yeah, I saw that.
So,
At a nickel a car on a toll road, I mean, that could really help.
I know, man. Forget impact fees, let's just put somebody in a booth and, right there in the four-way, so.
And I saw the speed at 90?
That was a high speed of 90 miles an hour, which frankly doesn't shock me, because, I don't know about Dave, but I've sat in my backyard a number of times on a Sunday afternoon and heard the motorcycles revving it up and hauling the mail west out of town, so. And honestly, that's kind of difficult to pinpoint, because you could stage an officer out there for 12 hours and may never catch somebody speeding, but you set a black box out there with a radar in it that's recording speeds, and somebody's gonna go 8 million miles an hour through there, so. And it seems to be confined to like one vehicle or two, so. Any other questions about any of that traffic study, speed study?
So the whole purpose of this was the discussion about the stop sign at the intersection, what have we concluded?
Well, we
Or is it
honestly haven't
traffic law?
had really much internal discussion about it. We've got some raw data that we kinda need to look at. What I pass along to you is some canned reports that the software that the system operates off of, I plug in some parameters and add some stuff to it, and then it spits out what I want. Or what it collects and makes it, so that somebody can look at it and make sense of it without sorting through thousands of words.
So, I'll chime in a little bit. This data doesn't point yes or no to a stop sign, as Gabe previously
Right.
reported and James reported. You can't use a stop sign to control speed, so we would have to make the argument that that is a dangerous intersection. As we can see from here, though, you have 45 mile an hour posted both directions. Your average speed eastbound is 35, and your average speed westbound is 46. I don't think that probably lends towards the argument of being unsafe.
Well, and the bigger
Well,
thing.
the argument is when you're going eastbound on Liberty Lane, you cannot see that intersection, so there's been several, well, I won't say I have the number of close calls, I know I've had some personal close calls, either pulling into the intersection of being T-boned or pulling out. And so the problem is that those that are traveling eastbound cannot see that intersection when somebody's pulling out, so that's a safety issue.
So I have a comment to both points here. Number one, we need to be looking at the 85th percentile in there, which was, 85th percentile is the speed at which 85% of motorists travel, and that is faster than the average speed. And so the second point is that MUTC guidelines are really the only thing that says you can't use a stop sign for a traffic calming device, or even a safety device. It's ultimately gonna be up to any attorneys that would be trying cases, if the city decided to erect a stop sign there, and then we set a police officer out there to enforce that stop sign and write tickets for violations of that stop sign, then Todd or whoever is gonna have to litigate the reasonableness of the placement of that stop sign. So, I think legally, we can go out there and plant the stop sign, it's in court whether or not those are defensible actions on the
And
criminal
I'm
side.
not in a position to give an opinion. I would say that, on the one hand, if you all wanna have a stop sign, I'll stand tall in court, no problem. Happy to do it. I will mention, and Kyle reminded me, it's a point worth mentioning, and we don't need a whole lecture. Basic municipal law 101, governments have qualified immunity. It's like a force field that protects you from liability in many instances. Under Missouri law, one of the donut holes is a dangerous condition. If a city knows that there's property that's dangerous, sovereign immunity can be waived. The most egregious case in Missouri is a bus stop. It got plowed into, and Kansas City was held to be liable. You put your bus stop, a little phone booth looking enclosure deal with the bench, too close to the curb. Again, this gets complicated and is very factually developed, but I could see us being in court for not having a stop sign, is my point. I could see us being in court for having a stop sign. Kinda damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't think it's legally required. I think if you all, in your judgment, and the chief says, look, let's put a stop sign in there. Somebody sues, we'll deal with it. If we don't, and somebody gets clobbered, and we are, alleged to be liable, we'll deal with it. It doesn't strike me as an open and shut one way or the other. Again, I'm not an expert in this particular factual scenario, but legally, I'm comfortable either way. If you all want one?
Having said that, I'll make a recommendation right now.
Yes.
Lower the speed limit to 35 and plant a stop sign there.
That sounds lovely.
Thank you.
I will back that too.
As the traffic engineer, you
That's in
have
my
that
As
authority?
the uneducated and duly appointed traffic engineer, that's my recommendation.
I mean, we can do it, but I feel a lot better with having John's blessing on it.
Well, we'll talk about it tomorrow then. Alright.
Yeah, I mean, common sense, all you gotta do is try and pull out of that subdivision and look to your left.
I honestly, and I admit I'm not the attorney in the room, but when it comes to public safety, I think I would rather defend a lawsuit for somebody that was cited unreasonably under the Constitution versus
Sure.
defending a lawsuit for somebody that got T-boned.
No question.
So,
And, the blood-sucking lawyer, I should have mentioned, we might save somebody's life.
Absolutely.
P.S.
Well, we're also introducing a sidewalk to that intersection now we got more pedestrian traffic with kids, and, I mean, if some idiot driving 90 miles an hour, and next thing you know, you got a bunch of kids that have been.
I think we've got ample data to support doing it, whether or not the courts will agree with us.
I mean, the first old boy that shows up and says, this is unreasonable, and I'm gonna fight my $15 stop sign ticket and pays the $5,000 retainer, yeah, that's fuzzy math all day long. That said, happy to fight them off for you.
Any other questions for Gabe?
Do we have a maximum speed limit in the city? I mean, just, if it's not posted, is there
A default.
a
Yeah,
default?
default speed limit, I believe, is 20 unless otherwise posted, so.
So that 45 was there before that was, came into the city.
Yeah, that was the county,
Yeah,
county
so-
set speed limit,
So,
so,
is there any other place in town that is over 35?
Highway 63 and Round Y.
Yeah, why coming in, front of Murray County. I asked for that to get lowered to, can't,
To 45?
lowered to something. We can talk about that later. I support the stop sign,
Moving on.
Does it take action by us to have that done, or can you go ahead and get it done?
Yeah, I think we actually have to enact, yeah, there's an ordinance.
Yeah, it's just easy order, straightforward, no problem.
Can we get that put on the next meeting?
Sure.
I'm for that.
Any other questions? Alderman reports. Alderman Bell.
Hey, I know I need to follow up with Kyle. Kyle, I had previously mentioned the capital improvement sales tax. And I know with all the discussion tonight, we might wanna dig back into that, so I will get with you on that. I know it falls in my court. And then also just a thank you to the city staff who helped let me connect remotely. I know that was extra
Only thing additional I have to say, I wanted to thank Alderman Bell for providing the trolley at the parade. My grandkids loved it.
Alderman Old,
No report.
Alderman Bradford.
I'm just glad to see that scooters is getting closer to being done. There's electricity and the lights are on and there's paint being done and so,
No open date though.
but, yeah.
Alderman Bogart.
No report.
Any general comments from the public?
I have.
Didn't he have a report?
No, not
You
this,
have a report?
not this time.
Wanted to make sure you didn't get forgotten.
I appreciate that. You're welcome.
No comments from the public?
Like lamp holder right here. Point that out.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody
The
go
award
home.
for the best in show on the Christmas parade. To be expected. 20 minutes of work on my city truck earned it.
James, before you leave.
Ma'am.
I need to talk.
Okay.
Oh,
That's a hell of a thing about your tax bill. I had no idea.